The fire came at night. By morning, Rockefeller's oil warehouses and refinery were annihilated. Not damaged beyond repair. Annihilated. The word he used years later was annihilated. Wood and oil and steel turned to ash. Months of work, years of building, a lifetime of recording, gone in a few hours. He stood in the rubble, the place where his business used to be, the place where his future used to live. Smoke still rising from beams that were hot enough to burn through boots. The fire did not ask for his permission. The fire did not care about his plans. The fire just burned. And when it was done, he did what he always did. He opened his ledger. The insurance check arrived before the builders needed payment. The Liverpool, London, and Globe Insurance Company paid the full amount. Not most of it, not some of it. Every dollar he had insured. He recorded the payment. He recorded the loss. He recorded the date. The same way he recorded every turkey he sold as a boy. Every receipt from every barrel of oil. Every loan from every bank. Every bid at every auction. The ledger did not burn. It was in his office, behind a door the fire never found. The office did not burn. That was not luck. That was not God. That was a man who kept his records in a place fire could not find them. The fire taught him something the competitors never learned. Wood burns, steel melts, paper turns to ash. But the habit of recording, the discipline of writing it down, that survives. The ledger is not the building. The map survived. The building was just one version of what the map could produce. When the building burned, the map remained. Something in your life burned down. A business, a relationship, a version of yourself you thought was permanent. You watched it turn to ash and you told yourself the story was over. Maybe it was. Maybe the thing you lost is gone forever. But here is what you did not consider. The fire cleared the ground. The insurance check was already written. Not in money, in experience, in knowledge, in the certainty that you can survive what you thought would kill you. You have spent years building something. Career, a reputation, a life that looked exactly the way you wanted it to look. And then something happened. A mistake, a betrayal, a market shift, a diagnosis, and the thing you built was gone. You told yourself you had to rebuild the same thing, the same shape, the same size, the same flaws, because that was the only way to prove you had not failed. Rockefeller did not build the same refinery after the fire. He built a better one. The fire forced him to start over. No apology, no explanation, just ash and the next line in the ledger. What could you build if you stopped trying to rebuild what burned? What could you become if you stopped trying to be who you were before the fire? You keep returning to the shape of what it was, trying to rebuild the same walls on the same ground, as if rebuilding the exact thing proves the fire was wrong. The warehouses were ash. The refinery was ash. The oil he had spent 3 years moving through the system, gone. Rockefeller opened the ledger. Not to count the loss. He already knew the loss. He opened it to find the next line. Rockefeller had a friend named S.V. Harkness. When Harkness heard about the fire, he came to Rockefeller's office. "All right, JD," he said. "I'll give you all I've got." Rockefeller never forgot that. He wrote about it decades later. Not because he needed the money. He did not need it. The insurance paid in full. He wrote about it because Harkness offered before Rockefeller asked. One man, one sentence, before a single number was spoken. That is what the ledger cannot record. The person who shows up before you ask. Rockefeller spent years building walls with numbers. And then the fire came and a friend walked through the smoke and handed him everything. The ledger records transactions. It does not record that. He kept it anyway. In memory, not in columns. Most people see the fire and stop. They mourn what burned. They stand in the ash long enough that the ash becomes familiar. They tell themselves they cannot build again because the old thing is gone and the old thing was the only thing they knew how to build. But the fire did not take your future. The fire took your past. Those are not the same thing. You have had a fire. Maybe not literal. Maybe the fire was a diagnosis, a divorce, a bankruptcy, a moment when you looked at your life and realized the thing you were building was already ash before the match was struck. You told yourself the story was over. You mourned. You raged. You asked why. But while you were asking why, the ground was clearing. The old structure, the one with the flawed foundation, the one you kept repairing instead of replacing, was gone. And for the first time in years, you could see the land underneath. The fire did not ask for your permission. The fire does not care about your plans. But the fire gives you something nothing else can give. A clean slate without the guilt of choosing it yourself. The old thing is gone. You did not kill it. You are free. You do not need to apologize for outgrowing what burned. You do not need to explain why the new version looks different. You just need to record the loss and start the next line. The profit is not in the insurance check. The profit is in the empty land. The profit is in the knowledge that wood burns and you do not have to build with wood anymore. The profit is in the freedom to build something the fire cannot touch. Find the ash. The thing in your life that burned and that you have been standing in ever since. Not the dramatic loss, the quiet one. The version of yourself you keep trying to restore because letting it go feels like admitting it should have burned. Stand in front of it. Say out loud, "This is gone." Then open a notebook. Write down what the fire cleared. Not what you lost, what you can see now that the old thing is no longer blocking the view. One sentence. That is your empty land. Rockefeller rebuilt. He did not rebuild the same refinery. He rebuilt a system. The fire taught him something he could not learn any other way. Wood burns. Steel melts. The ledger does not. The insurance was not luck. The insurance was a bet he placed on a future he could not guarantee. He paid premiums for years before the fire. He recorded every payment. When the fire came, the ledger proved he had already prepared. You cannot prevent the fire, but you can pay the premiums. You can keep the ledger. You can build something that does not need to look like what burned. The map survived. It always survives. You have been carrying it longer than you know. Every lesson from what burned, every decision you made differently after, every morning you kept going when the ash was still warm. You already have the map. Build something new with it. I build what the fire cannot take. I build what the fire cannot take. I build what the fire cannot take.